Hi there, it's Natasha. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are creating this masked card, and I have my little daughter here to help me do the voiceover. Say hello.
Hello!
And so we have some Simon Says stamp masking paper here. These are just I think they're 8.5 by 11 sheets of masking paper, and I'm just cutting a couple of thick slices that I am going to use to mask off part of my card. I'm going to keep that leftover piece of masking paper there and use it as proper masking paper in a minute. So I am just peeling off the release paper off the masking paper and putting it down on my card base, which is 80-pound Nina Solar White. And I'm just pulling it closer to me so that I can see and match it up with the grid lines on my desk. So I've put the top one up there, and I'm pressing it down really well on the part that I'm going to be inking next to. Now I'm going to put the bottom one on, and I want to have slightly more room at the top than at the bottom. So the bottom part that I mask off is going to be much skinnier, and I'm just going to use those two little bits to hold it in place so that I can get this one nice and even down the bottom. I had said that I was on a bit of a rainbow kick, so this is following on from that, getting a little bit of rainbow in on my card making. So I have this stamp set here, and this is an older one. This is from AliExpress. I will link it down below in the description box if possible. Otherwise, I might just list some alternatives that would be really cool that you could use for the same technique. It doesn't have to be this stamp set at all. So I'm just picking off, I think 3 or 4 flowers I end up using, just the ones that I like, and attaching them to individual acrylic blocks. And then I am also going to use a leaf from this little stamp set. This is one of my favorite stamp sets. I reach for this one all the time. And we're going to use the sentiment from this one as well. So I'm just going to use the little leaf that you can see in there on that one. So I've attached them all to the blocks, and I'm going to use some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. No real reason for this ink, just I wanted a nice black, deep, dark ink. So this is always my go-to one that I really like using. And each time I stamp a flower, I'm going to stamp onto that masking paper which I have to the left of me on the desk as well. So it doesn't matter what the one on the masking paper looks like. I am going to end up fussy cutting those, and so they're just going to be cut out and used as a mask. So I'm trying to make sure I have the right amount of flowers by stamping them, remembering to stamp them each time as I stamp onto my card. And there's no rhyme or reason how I'm doing this. I'm just stamping them as I want to, and I end up stamping a couple of leaves out of this one. I'm being lazy so that I don't have to do any masking at the moment. I am keeping all of these layers, all of these flowers, sorry, as a single layer. If you wanted to get fancy and spend more time, you could cut the masks out first and then overlap some of the flowers, which would look really cool too. So that's pretty much just finishing up, and you can see that some of these flowers are hanging off onto the masking strips on my card. So I don't need to cut out the entire mask for these ones. I just have a look where it's what part of the flower I need, and then cut out only that part, so I don't need to use my time cutting out bits that won't even help me out. So I'm just going to fast forward through all this fussy cutting because that is pretty boring, and I don't like doing fussy cutting too much. It takes time, and I don't have a lot of time at the moment, so this is kind of the limit to my fussy cutting out all of these flowers and leaves. So I'm just pressing down the masks really thoroughly because I don't want them to lift up with the ink. I don't want them to lift at all, otherwise that would kind of ruin how the card was meant to look. And these ones, all of these flowers are pretty easy to match up. This little flower here, I have to turn around a couple of times to find out how that one goes, but the rest of them are all pretty easy to match up with the masking. Now I have my Distress Oxides. These are what I'm going to use to create my rainbow today, and I've gone for a softer rainbow with the colours that I've chosen. Not really for any reason in particular, just because these are the colours that I liked today. So I'm going to start off with the pink. The colours that I used are listed on the screen. So the pink is the worn lipstick, the orange is the spiced marmalade, the yellow is squeezed lemonade, the greeny blue is cracked pistachio, then the blue is salty ocean, and the one that you can't see on screen, which is a purpley colour, is shaded lilac. And because not too much of the colour will be showing in the end, the blending doesn't have to be fabulous, and so I'm not putting in a whole lot of effort. I do go back occasionally and make sure that the blending is nice, but yeah, nothing special at all. I'm doing it pretty fast. So now I'm just doing the very last shaded lilac, which is a new colour to me, and I really like this colour, so it seems to feature in all my projects at the moment. So once I'm finished all of that, I have actually heat set it because these inks do stay wet a little bit longer. And now this is my favourite part, although my favourite part might be coming up when you take off the strips, but definitely the reveal is fun. So all of these flowers stay plain white, and that's how they're going to stay. I'm not going to add any colour to the flowers. And then when you take off this bottom part here, which I've actually turned the whole card around because I want the larger part to be down the bottom, where I'm going to add this especially for you sentiment. As I've said, this is my favourite sentiment set at the moment. I use this one. This is my absolute go-to. So now this is the cool part where I'm taking off those strips of masking paper, and I do like this masking paper, even though it's a little more on the pricier side. Not too bad though. Because I know that when I stamp on it, the inks are not going to bleed through, and I'm not going to have any problems, and I don't have any problems with it tearing my paper. You still have to be a little bit careful, but I haven't had any problems, so I do really like this masking paper. Anyway, I'm adding that little especially for you sentiment down in the bottom right hand corner, and this is a nice, clean, simple card. These are the kind of cards that I seem to gravitate towards. Both because these are the ones that I like and because of time restrictions. So this part makes it all worthwhile when you're taking off those two strips, and you can kind of see the finished product does look nice and clean and tidy. Then I'm just taking off a tiny little strip either side so that I can have a little border at the top and the bottom of my card. This big old wide roll, which is 2 inches wide of foam tape, this is from AliExpress as well, and I will link it down below. I really like this foam tape because 2 passes of it covers the entire back of the card. I just ripped it a little bit unevenly, but you could cut it with scissors and make it nicer. So I'm just adding this to a 110 pound Nina Solar White card base that I made, and that pretty much finishes off the card. The only thing that I am going to add are some Morning Dew Nuvo drops, and these are quite cool because with these dry transparent, even though they look a little cloudy now, they will dry clear, and they kind of pick up the color that it's on but from behind them, so it ends up looking like I actually probably have 5 colors of Nuvo drops. The very last thing I forgot is that I'm adding the Wink of Stella, and this is really hard to show in the video. It just adds a little bit of glittery shine to all of these white flowers, but it looks really nice, but I can't seem to pick it up in the light, so I'm sorry, but you'll just have to take my word for it that it sparkles beautifully. That was again my card for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed creating this card with me and give something similar a go yourself. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.